Everyone, and a warm welcome to today's session on career opportunities in international business. Today, the IMDR Institute is happy and proud to host Mr. Amit Karnik joining us virtually all the way from Dubai. Mr. Karnik is the export head at Asian Paint Dubai, UAE, and also a proud IMDR alumnus. He brings 15 years of global experience in international business operations, sourcing, and marketing across 5 continents. He has successfully built distribution network in 40 countries and has worked with well-known brands like Avery Dennison and Milton. His expertise includes export and import, international sales, and global sourcing, distribution channel management. This is a great chance to all of us to learn directly from an industry leader who once sat where we sit today. Please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Mr. Amit Karne.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Sir,
I'm audible, right? I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
You can hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So it's really great to connect with you and to interact with you. I can just recollect my days in IMDR, and the kind of influence which IMDR has in shaping my career is really great. I would have loved to have this session in person with all of you. Maybe in future we can definitely look at such kind of an arrangement. Currently, why I decided to look at international business. I mean, we have typically 1 hour to complete our session, and I know international business is such a big topic. It's a huge topic in itself. So we will see what kind of opportunities which are there, which I would like to just open up things for you. What is the future looking at in terms of international business? Talking about myself, I'm currently associated with Asian Paints. I'm working in Dubai office, Dubai operations. I'm part of the Middle East team. I look at the exports business for Asian Paints. Basically, around 32 countries is what is there, which is under my management. Previous to Asian Paints, I was associated with Unilever's. There's a brand which they acquired called Blue Air. So I was working in with Unilever's, and I was basically managing their operations in Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka for this particular product. Previous to that, I was in Nitco, which was predominantly in the ceramic space. And then before that, I was in Milton. So just to talk about my career, what I have managed to do is I've tried to, whenever I've switched a job or an opportunity, I've tried to change the industry. So I've not worked in the same industry, starting from household, then I ventured into building construction, then consumer durables. Now I'm into more FMCG kind of a paint environment. So that has really opened up my horizon, and that is how I have tried to shape up my career. And typically, I've looked at the international business, international marketing, product development, sourcing, and supply chain is the domain which currently is what I have managed across 18 years of working experience now. So, as I said, international business is typically a very, very big topic, and to manage to cover it in a 45 minutes timeline is not easy. So, but still, I will try to give you some gist of what it is and what really holds for you in future, because typically your life's career span is going to be like 2025 to maybe 2050. So this is the next 25 years which we are kind of looking at for your career and your development. And this is where we will definitely focus in terms of the opportunities which will be there. So I have just made a small presentation for all of you, and I would like to share with you. And then maybe we will have time or not time, I don't know, for the question answer sessions, because I have one presentation which I have to attend after exactly one hour. So, but if you have any questions, do write to me, do reach out to me, and I'll definitely try to reply to you and try to get in touch with you. Let me know also on the feedback which you find, how you find the session, and maybe in the future sessions, if you want me to cover something more in detail, then I would love to do that. Yeah, so I'll just quickly share with you one my screen. You can see it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, great. So international business, you all know, I mean, I'm sure you know by now. I'll not go into the theoretical part of it, which is broadly in terms of your international marketing, international business, international finance. Then you have supply chain, you have logistics, you have product development. So this is the entire family of the international business, right? So by now I believe you know where you want to head in your careers because you've current like in the first year now. So typically, basis your background and basis your liking, you know where you want to or where you find yourself fit in. So I will not really deep dive into all these topics, but this is the perspective which I would like to give to you. Okay, these are the foreign direct investment numbers which are there overall in the globe. So this details I have for 2024, right? So typically, if you see, there is a heavy investment which is currently happening in the renewable energy sector. And this trend I have followed since last 3 years. You know, like I have followed it in 2023, in 2022, and typically a strong orientation is there towards the renewable energy sector. And that is where the major funding is currently happening. So that is a strong segment to look at. Apart from that, there is communications, which is also a big part of the overall investment which is happening. Communication to do with your telecom, your AI, your overall communications, and your internet and penetration. So that is where the entire the investment is currently happening. And we all know semiconductor now India is a late entrant, but we are trying to catch up. The segment is dominated by four major players: China, US, Japan, and Europe. So these are four basically, and Taiwan. How can we forget Taiwan? So Taiwan is also one of the major semiconductor exporters. So that is where the current investment is happening. Even in India, I see India has taken a very bold plan for next 5 years, but it's just a starting point, as we all know. And apart from that, we understand how metal is currently important with the kind of pressure which US was trying to put on China, and China is controlling the best, the most secure supply of metals, which is they're controlling the 80% of the raw earth metals. So that is where the investment will be there in future. And then apart from that, you have segments which are traditionally your electronics, real estate, and automotive. And these are the traditional segments. But yes, the decisive factor is renewable energy is something which you can really look at as a future kind of this thing, you know. So if we deep dive into the FDIs in 2024, if you see renewable is 27%, followed with communication 16%. So semiconductor is 12%, and rest is the traditional investment kind of this thing. So region wise, if you see where exactly you can look at, you know, if you look at the horizon of 25 to 50, typically, you know, so Asia Pacific is going to be the biggest region for all of you because that is where the major investment is currently happening. And in Asia Pacific, if you focus, I mean, there is a lot of investment which is actually coming in India. If you see overall, $400 billion was invested. Apart from that, typically 25% of the investment is actually happened in India. So there's a great scope for all of you in the sectors which we already discussed. And but yes, I mean the execution is going to be more important because that is where I mean we really have to show our this thing, you know, because execution is one field where India has really not been on great front. So typically the opportunities are in front of you, but you see how you need to grab it and materialize it in the best possible way. So apart from that, there is a heavy investment which is happening in Europe, basically to do with the renewable sector because of the war which was there, which started around 3.5 years back. So Europe has heavily invested now in the renewable sector because they want to shy away from the dependence of the oil. And that is where also there are major economies like Saudi Arabia who are now trying to defocus the oil and try to focus in the other areas and the other developments. And then you have North America. So these are the typical geographies where currently the investment is happening. If you see the energy trends, this is very important to study the energy trends, where exactly the future energy trends is going to be, and what are going to be the resources for that. So there is a heavy investment which is happening in solar and wind. So but if you see predominantly electric, solar, wind, all these three sources, China is a dominant player, wherein they control around 70 to 80% of the supply chain for these three segments. So India is now trying to see if we can invest heavily on the hydro sector, and that is where you see the entire investment which is happening and the bold plans which are there for the next 5 years. But again, the execution is the key for India to basically do well in this hydro sector. Apart from that, definitely the China dominance is heavily there in all the sectors. And if you see the trend in oil, it is definitely going down. I've compared the horizon of 2024 to 2050, which is going to be your typical career years, wherein if you see the investment in oil is tapering, already tapered down. So all the major economies are now moving against oil, or maybe trying to find the different resources. And coal is definitely coming down. Coal has been the traditional energy sector, and that is where it is heavily going down. So this is the future trends, and this is where basically I feel you can it will help you guide in your career choices, which you want to plan for yourself as you go ahead. So this is where basically I have tried to map the investment infrastructure. Okay, where typically is the investment which is happening, and which sort of economies. Again, there is a heavy investment. By 2040, approximately $100 trillion is something which is going to be invested in the overall infrastructure. And if you see sector-wise, transportation is one sector wherein you will have the strongest investment coming until 2040, and followed with energy, as we already discussed, and then digital space, which is your AI and semiconductor space and your social. So this is going to be the trend for you as you go ahead. But strong point coming out is, transportation is one sector which is going to be there for the next 5 to 10 years horizon. And typically, if you see this $100 trillion, heavy investment is happening in Asia, and I'm sure in this $70 trillion, almost strong number will be there for India. I don't know exactly the trend for 2040, but I'm sure India will be the major component in the entire this $70 trillion kind of investment platform. We will look at a little bit deep dive into China because in my growing up years, like typically from 2000 to 2025, China is a dominant player in the international business arena. And it has been there. If you typically see, they have grown from 9 to 12% on an average every year in terms of GDP. And they have heavily invested on the infrastructure and the manufacturing. So if you follow India and China journey, when I was in the college days, typically there was a lot of investment which India was trying to do in the service sector, and China was definitely dominating in the manufacturing sector. So major investment, global investment went to China. And India, major investment we could attract in the service sector. But even today, if you notice, I mean, typically India manufacturing would be around 15% of the global of the Indian economy in terms of GDP. And service will be very high. Service, I think, will be more than 50% contribution for the India. And typically, if you see any developing economy, this is a very is a contrast actually, because if you notice the GDP contribution in all the developed societies, you will find services as a number one kind of this thing, wherein you have typically high service this thing and contribution in the entire GDP. And in spite of India being a developing economy, service element is really very big, which is more than 50%. So we have not followed the typical like growth path, and this has created some disparity because services, yes, you have a strong growth in terms of numbers, but not in terms of the kind of jobs which you add in the economy or the pace which you create for the economy to grow and to flourish, which typically China did. China rightly invested in the infrastructure, they invested in the manufacturing, they invested in the core, and that is how China has dominated from 2000 onwards. Because in 1990s, if you go back, typically China and India GDP was pretty much same. In fact, we opened up our economy in 1991, and China must have done it maybe 5 years before us. So it was pretty much close, and now if you see, there's a huge contrast wherein India is now approximately $4 trillion, whereas China is close to $20 billion, $20 trillion, sorry. So it's 5 times of the economic size of what India is. So there's a lot to do, and there's a lot to learn from how they have developed themselves in this last 25 odd years. And that is where I thought that, since this era belonged to China in a major way, in terms of, if you see today, they are able to compete against, I mean, against China on against US, sorry, on the domination of economy, as well as the relationship which they have. So, it's clear cut that this 25, 30 years, this entire 3 decades is definitely going to China. So there's a lot to learn, and I mean, I will not be able to cover much detail, but I would like you to really deep dive into it and see how they have evolved themselves, how they have developed in the last 25, 30 years, what good things they did, which is something which India should learn, and you the future generation should really adopt and see how you can plug in that way from your own this thing. So if we deep dive a little bit into China, so manufacturing is, as I said, currently the biggest driver for them. So it is 26% of the China's GDP. It has always been 20. This is 26 is a recent number, but if you see earlier numbers, it is even to the range of 35%. To 40% of the contribution was there in the Chinese GDP. And as I said, India will be around 15% average. So that is where they have the edge over the global world. And if you notice, 30% of the global manufacturing added value is coming from China itself. And a major, any shift in China's manufacturing sector have a significant ripple effect. This is what we have seen in during COVID times, wherein the entire economies were locked down. So, and especially when the Chinese economy was locked down, what was the impact on the global environment, wherein all the prices went up, the supply chain got disrupted, the freight levels went to many typically thrice, maybe India US sector, which is like 20 feet container around $33,000, $3,500 went to $10,000, $12,000, $13,000, $15,000. So that is a disruption which created. We all know what happened when the semiconductor shortages, the prices went up for the cars and your basic commodities. So that is the impact which China is currently having on the global manufacturing arena. So any disruption in China is a major effect on all the manufacturing, even in paint industry, like calcium carbonate, which is the base component of the raw material in paints. 80% of the manufacturing is happening in China for the basic component of the raw material. So that is, you will see how majorly the globe is dependent on China in terms of the supplies and supply chains. So typically, as I said, uh, the manufacturing economy will be approximately 4.67 trillion for China in terms of GDP, and the export of China is around 3.6 to 3.7 trillion dollars. So typically, India will be around maybe 750 to 800 billion dollars. So China is, I think, four to five times now in exports in terms of value. And apart from that, as I said, the GDP value is $20 trillion, very close to US now. And India is, yeah, it's doing good, but still a lot to catch up. I mean, there's still 4 trillion. I think we are trying to reach this year, and then I think consistently we have to grow at 8.5 to 9%. Typically, 8.5 is something which we need to hit to make an impact of in the next 5 to 10 years. So cluster, you see, this is a typical policy wherein China creates hubs. They create clusters. For example, any manufacturing they do, they make sure that they do it in the mass levels. If any example I want to give you is like, for example, ceramic. If you see a ceramic, there is a base biscuit which is there, and then there is a printing which is there on the top of the tile, which makes a ceramic tile. You have biscuit, which is the base, and then you put design on the top, and that is what you see in the market. So in China, typically, if you see, you will have the biggest of the clusters which are making only the biscuits. And then they supply these biscuits, and then they supply it to the basically the printers, wherein you have the digital printing units, which are basically putting the printing on the top, and then they are packing the tiles, and then the supply chain is arranged. So this is a typical nature of China. And if you see any Indian ceramic or tile factory, you will have one factory manufacturing multiple operations inside only. You have a biscuit manufacturing, which is one side, and then typically you have the digital printing, which is happening on the other side, and then you have packing, which is happening on the other side. So typically the entire operation is happening in one single factory. Whereas in China, they're able to do it on the mass levels, and that is how they get the economies, of scale. So because of the scale of manufacturing, and now China has heavily invested in the back-end manufacturing. They are not just on the product front, they are also investing hugely on the back end, the technology front, the machinery front, and I mean and it's a huge, I mean, and the kind of plans which they have and currently what they have achieved. Even initially we were dependent on Germany or countries like Italy to get the proper technologies for manufacturing, but now everything you can find in China itself, and at maybe like 70% or half the price of what typically you used to find that in Europe. So that is where China is not just front end, but they are now going back in, and they typically go inside the entire supply chain. So wherein if you see there is one product, you need 10 products to manufacture. So they will make sure that they invest in these 10s, and to manufacture those 10, what is required? Maybe you need another 10. So they will make sure that they are investing in another 10 also. So the entire supply chain is what is typically they control, and that is what you see in the EV sector, right? EVs. We all know that I mean EVs battery is 60-70% of the cost of your vehicle is is in the EV industry is basically batteries. And the entire supply chain of batteries is heavily controlled and dependent on China. Today, we see some sort of alignment in EVs, which is happening in India, but the back-end supply chain is dominant by the Chinese players and Chinese companies. If you see the auto sector, which is there today, I mean, heavily you find Chinese cars everywhere in the world. And that is how, if you have a strong control on the supply chain, you have a direct control on the entire industry and the future dynamics of it. Similar is there with the solar. Solar, if you see, yes, India is heavily investing on solar energy and solar power, but still 70 to 80% of the backend components is still manufactured in China itself. So that is how they have evolved themselves, and that is how the cluster policy is something which they work. And that is one of the success, I feel, one of the areas where, they have successfully executed and implemented the projects ahead. So this is again, to compare the dominance of China. Gross production is to 30 to 35%, and value added is 29%. And then you can see the world, and India is still 3%, in spite of, our population, the biggest population country, we are still only 3% of the gross production. So really, I mean, it also opens up opportunities, I feel, for all of you, as you move ahead, because I mean, India definitely, I think next 10 years down the line, these numbers will definitely change, and India will be, I feel, around 8 to 10% typically has to. So there are a lot of opportunities for you and in your career in shaping in that way. And this is, again, the gross production which I've captured. In 1995, you see where it was and now where it is, China. And then there is the G7, which are the big 7 economies. So this is where I've tried to compare the details in the data. So government support, yes, there's a heavy government support, and that is also one of the main reasons and drivers for the economy in China. And that is how they operate. So yes, that is one of the strengths which they typically have. Then this is the sectoral composition, which I just tried to give you, comparison of India and China, the way they have grown in the part of GDP. Again, as I said, India, typically the manufacturing sector was not so strong, and we always focused on the service, and service was the main driver for us in terms of GDP. Whereas in China, it was the manufacturing. When they invested in the infrastructure, they created the base, and now they are controlling the global economy and this thing. So typically, this is the orientation for which I wanted to give you in terms of international business. See, why I thought of this topic is, today's world is very connected. It's very globalized. And even if you decide to work in any sector, there's a high chance that there is some global thing which happens, and it has a heavy impact on what you're trying to pursue. So in this today's world, I feel there are a lot of opportunities for you. And as we already discussed, there are so many things which are ahead in India. India is just, I think, just starting now, in that race. So don't be worried about AI and all. There are a lot of jobs which are there in the market for at least the skilled and students like you, wherein you can find your space and you can definitely be part of the entire business. Since I'm in international business and my career is here, I thought I could give some insights to you. Yeah, so I hope you got some gist of what I was trying to say. I think we can have some question answer sessions. We managed to be on time as I planned. So yes, we can have some 10-15 minutes of interaction, and then we can see where we are heading ahead. Thank you.
You can put up questions.
I hope I was not so fast.
Hello, sir. Good
Hello,
afternoon.
good afternoon.
Hello, sir. My name is Rishikesh. I wanted to ask a question. What do you think are the biggest and current trends that are floating in international business, and what we should adapt to it?
Current trends in international business. Yeah, as we discussed, I think I mean it depends on your liking. There are different segments which are available for you. But if you have something to do with the renewable energy, that is going to be a major, because I feel, this age last like IT, then followed with the AI. So that has been the current age, which is going. But I feel, for my personal feeling, which I'm having since last 10 years, is, there's a strong orientation which is going to be there in the renewable sector. And that is one sector which, it is also proving in the numbers, wherein if you follow this 3 4 years of trend in terms of foreign direct investment also, there's a major investment which is happening in the renewable side of the business. If you can, if you can be part of that journey, I think that can give you a really good, uh, and just as I said, next 5 years are going to be very important for you. That will typically shape your career. So you typically, if you decide, I mean, whatever you decide for the next 5 years, make sure that I mean, yeah, there is a scope to change and to adjust yourself. But I feel, make right choices which are there for you for next 25 to 30 years. So if you see the global trends like oil and gas, that is typically, I feel, not the right. I mean, there are opportunities. There will be opportunities. It will not really go down, but the investment is coming down. So see where the future trends are. I feel renewable is something which is there. Apart from that, I think you can look at logistics, which are the base sectors. Supply chain is a very big topic, as we all know. So I'm sure many engineers will be there in the class. So for them, you can look at overall supply chain as a thing, but logistics also is a very big component of the international business. Typically, companies spend around 25 to 30% of the cost on the logistics itself. So logistics is your freight, your shipping, and all these industries. And there is a heavy investment which has happened after COVID on this segment. So that also will typically grow as we go ahead. So I feel these 3 4 industries you can really look at for your future. This thing. I hope I have answered your question.
Sir, I had a question. As you said, like international businesses, if we choose it, how can we as managers build the cross-cultural competence that we are looking forward to?
So yeah, I mean, we have to work towards it. It is definitely going to take some time. We are coming from India, so we have a definitely we when you compete in the international space, typically my experience is, when I started in international marketing, and then when I was traveling, they used to always see me as a Indian brand. And then you're fighting with Chinese brands, you're fighting with European brands, you're fighting with uh, American brands, right? So what I used to tell, that time, I remember I was working in the stationery industry. So Milton is actually, there's one brand called Claro, which belongs to Milton, and I was fortunate to basically head that division as they started this journey. So when I was traveling in the global markets, I used to always tell them that, if you don't invest now in the stationery industry with India, no matter you work with me or no, but you know, you're missing the boat, because typically the technology was available in India in terms of ball pens. If you see, there's a marriage which has to happen in the ball which you write and the ink. So this technology is a very hardcore technology, and if you have the proper marriage, then only that pen will write and will basically give you the right performance. So that is how it is, and I mean, as I have traveled in so many countries now, almost 65 countries. So typically, they respect Indians. I mean, it's not just today. Even when I used to travel in 2008 onwards or 9 onwards, typically, that respect was always there, and they know that we have good brains, and you know, the, and Indians are everywhere. To be honest with you, and I mean, even if you travel in Africa, all the major investors, all the business are basically the business fraternity is driven by the Indians. So I don't see any cultural issues I have faced. Definitely, there's a learning because you have to adjust with the local culture. Typically, as I work now in Iraq or I work in Kuwait, I have to adjust to the local culture, which is, if you talk about paints, then there's a strong painter lobby which is coming from Egypt. So, and they have a typical style of painting. So I have to make sure that I follow that style for me to be successful in these two markets. When when I'm maybe traveling to Africa, so then there is a typical painter psyche which is there in Mozambique or in Ghana, and there's a typical application standards which are there in that country. So I have to adjust myself. But I think as you go ahead, as you grow, as you understand more, you approach more. I mean, you're there. It's just the attitude which matters. Then I think once you have a right frame of attitude, you can basically achieve anything. I feel.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Prathamesh. My
Hi,
question to
Prathamesh.
you is, hi, sir. My question to you is, what are the legal or political risks for an MNC that an MNC faces in an upcoming sector or an emerging
Okay.
sector?
Okay. Legal as well as you said political, right?
Right, sir.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I can give you some examples. For example, a country like Congo. Okay. If you try to operate as Asian Paints there, you will fail because we studied the trend there. There was like big MNCs like ShopRite, which is from South Africa, and then Walmart also tried to enter that market. But it's so difficult to basically manage, the money part of it, or the legal way of operating in that market. It's There's too much corruption, to be honest with you, and as a good company, you cannot operate on that lines there. So then typically you have to operate through a partner or a distributor who understands the local culture, who has the local, like proper connects. So that is how we operate typically, because we follow all the standards, we follow all the practices, which are good practices. But typically, these countries has a way of to working, and which definitely we cannot adjust to that environment. But there are distributors or partners which are available. So if you decide to work in that countries, this is one of the ways which are there. Because yes, I mean, these are very important. If you read history also, India typically, Coca-Cola came into India in 1970s, 1980s, and they have to go back. So, I mean, yes, there is a risk when once you're in your in the multinational environment, but you have a process which you follow. Typically, in different companies, the process will vary. some companies are very aggressive and they take risks, so they actually go ahead with the plans. But some companies, there are the agencies which do the primary research for you, and then you can appoint many agencies that like PricewaterhouseCoopers and who do country audits. So typically you go ahead, you do the country audits. For example, a market like Saudi Arabia, it's a very strong market for paints. There are two players which are there, typically dominating the market. So there's Jotun, which is ideally 35% of the market share, and there is Al Jazeera, which is a local company, which is typically 35% of the market share. So 70% of the market is controlled by these two players. For Asian Paints to enter, there is no legal hassle in this. Saudi Arabia is a straightforward country. But we are hesitant to enter the market because technically there is no number three. So market is very strongly dominated by these two players. And if you really want to be a player there, you have to invest heavily in the market, to make sure that you are in that dominant space. Because for us, in any market we enter, we typically want to be a market leader among the top three. So that is how it is. So we are hesitant to enter that market. It's been like some time that even the India team is strategically finding it difficult to find a partner. The third strategy will be maybe to enter and to pick up the third partner. But unfortunately, as I said, 70% is these two players, and then typically there are hundreds of companies which are having from the market share of 30%. So even if you pick up a company, it's very difficult for you to scale up. So there are different factors which are there, and then now currently it's a very organized setup. There are so many agencies which are available, which you can hire, and which normally multinationals do hire, and they get reports, and basis a plan, they definitely execute that. It also depends on your alignment. I remember in Unilever's. It was very aggressive setup. I mean, they really operate in a different mode altogether. So they take risks in the global markets because yes, there's a legal setup to it, but they take their own chances and then they venture in the market, and that is how they have grown globally. So typically, this is how maybe a aggressive European company operates as compared to a Indian company which is like Asian Paints. So it also depends on company to company how they want to pursue and how they want to take and what kind of risks you're taking in going in that market, or trying to see where exactly is your plan, how you want to achieve what is basically your agenda or your objective. Also, as I said, Asian Paints. It's very clear that we want to be market leaders, at least in top three positions in any market you enter. As on that scale. So that is how it is. So it all depends on many factors which are there, and then depending on your objectives, you can find your way ahead.
Hello, Amit. This is Sanmat here.
Hi, hello.
Just wanted to understand how much important is it learning foreign languages from the international trade perspective for these students?
Very interesting question, actually. Very interesting question. So typically, I started traveling from 2007 onwards. So first country which I traveled was China, and I was very impressed with the way things are and with the way they operate. But definitely, language was one hitch which I found. So Chinese is something very difficult language to learn. So I thought of learning Chinese, and then I started learning Chinese. But then typically I started traveling in the other countries like Europe, and then I entered in Middle East. So then I started in all the Middle Eastern markets. Then I started in Africa. So somewhere that language issue was left behind in that entire journey and that process. So currently, if you ask me, I speak only English, Hindi, and Marathi is my mother tongue. So these three languages I'm well versed. Apart from that, yes, I understand Arabic, but I cannot speak. But yeah, I mean, I think I've been, I'm doing okay. I'm doing decent. So that way, I feel language is not a real botheration. I mean, if you know it is good, definitely you're able to, and typically I will tell you instances wherein I have to go to the deeper markets. It's like, I have to go to bazaars, I have to go to understand the markets, to understand the trends. So, like, I mean, if in any typical market, I have to maybe interact with 10, 15 people out there. So, but yes, you have to find your way, and that is what I have managed to do, and I'm pretty okay and pretty successful in that journey. But if you can pick up some languages, definitely it will help you, because now currently we operate in French countries, so we have hired some people who are French speaking, or otherwise like they pick up once you stay in particular environment for maybe 6 to 8 months, then you start speaking those languages. So we have some resources which are there in Mozambique, which is typically speaking uh, you know they speak Portuguese. So yes, now the people who are there from 6 to 8 months, they pick up Portuguese, and then also Portuguese they pick up the local language, because that is where you interact with the local partners there. So for me, honestly, these three languages is something which I could able to manage for my side. But yes, if you can pick up in the entire journey, if you have a liking towards it, nothing like it. You can definitely invest your time in learning more languages, and it will give you more inputs, I feel. It will give you more this thing. And uh, China is something which I think Chinese, if you can learn, if you can understand. See, because I see in global markets the scale of China today. It's huge. It's enormous. And I think it will give you a deeper depth, because I have traveled in factories also, different factories of China. So you definitely have to hire somebody to speak and to understand the local this thing. So somebody is there with you, uh, but it's really not the bottleneck, I feel. I have managed even alone. I have managed in so many cases. So I think it's the right frame of attitude which can take you there. But it's an add-on. If you can learn, if you can pick up some languages, definitely it will help you, I think.
Hello, sir. My name is Shreya. Last question is, apart from language, what are the challenges you faced in overall journey of international?
There are so many challenges. Actually, see, the main challenge which is there is definitely initially I was like promoting the Indian brands. So um, there's a psyche, like Indians, okay, this is where you fit in. So even if you have a good quality product, even if you have something which is really good, it's difficult to break that frame of mind. So that is one challenge which I have encountered everywhere. But eventually, that has phased out, because then I was working in ceramic industry also. If you see today, India is a dominant exporter and the global player in the entire ceramic industry, wherein you have a typically 800 to 900 factories which are located in one area of Gujarat, and that is exporting maybe like thousands of containers every month. And I think we are there in almost 135 to 140 countries they are exporting. So that is a strength which is there. So typically it varies from industry to industry, but I yeah. No, no. 5 minutes. That's finish. So typically, yeah. So that is one challenge which initially I could face, as I said. But I don't think so that after like today's world, that is a challenge, because India is really accepted as a strong country, as a strong contender also. So that definitely is not there. Apart from that, see, honestly, there are so many like small issues which came up, but really not big to that extent. As I said, I purposely chosen. I decided to change my sectors in early part of my career, and that has really helped me navigate a lot of challenges. Maybe many people will find it challenging, but for me, I've gone through it. So I didn't stick myself in one sector. I started with household, then I went in stationery, then I went in building construction, which is ceramic. Then I even started my own startup for 3 years. Then I again came in household, in levers, and then I am in paint. So typically, I never changed in the same competition. That is something which was no for me as I started my career. I never went from Nitco to Kajaria. So it was definitely one thing which I have strongly, imbibed for myself. And I have not stick to any particular territory. So from Middle East, then maybe I started doing Africa. So from Africa, I started doing America, and this is something which I liked, to be honest with you. So even today, if you ask me to explore any new market, I'm absolutely ready and passionate for it. That is the same energy which I have even today to really go and start from the basic onwards. And I think that is something which has really helped me in my life to basically face whatever challenges have come across, I feel. So as I said, again, the attitude is something which is very critical and important. You have to develop that attitude, and that is what will carry you ahead. You might not be the best of the student right now in there, but with the right frame of attitude, you can really achieve whatever you want to achieve in your life. Believe me and trust me on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. On behalf of IMDR, I thank Amit Karnik, sir, to a very informative session. Sir, today we learned about the FDI report, career opportunities in renewable energy, and why Asia Pacific region gets the highest FDI. We also understood how countries like China are growing fast in international business and how we are the future workforce can contribute to India's growth in this sector. Your insight over AI, semiconductor, transport, and infrastructure really opened our mind to new opportunities. Thank you, sir, for inspiring us with your experience. And thank you to all faculty and students for being part of this session.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity which you have given to me. I really appreciate. Learning is something which I mean, as even today, I'm into that learning curve. So really happy to be part of this journey, and whatever I could do for the campus and for students there, I will be happy to do in my own way. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. All the best to you. Thank you.